Season 1 of Medsplaining is brought to you by Estee Lauder. With 40 years of night repair expertise and 30 years of collagen research, Estee Lauder are the experts in nighttime skincare. Before we get into today's topic, make sure to subscribe to the Medsplaining podcast on your favorite podcast platform to never miss an episode. Welcome to Medsplaining. I'm Dr. Jennifer Zelowitsky, your host, and today's episode, we're going to be speaking with Gina Livy of the Livy Method about her very successful program for weight loss through lifestyle management. But before we do that, a quick ad break. I think most of us want great skin, and your nighttime skincare routine is a great time to tackle that. I know that my skin looks better in the morning when I've taken the time to use products at night. So transform your nighttime routine with Estee Lauder's new Advanced Night Repair Overnight Treatment. 95% of users said their skin feels recharged upon waking, and 90% said their skin felt softer and smoother overnight. Wake up to visibly improved lines and wrinkles. So Gina, I am beyond thrilled to have you here today. It's a pleasure to get to sit face to face, first of all, and just talk for any length of time because you're always so busy that I feel like we're ships passing in the night when we do see each other or when we interact. But it's been, I just want to say it's been such a pleasure to get to know you, to get to know your community. And I'm really excited to learn a little bit more about you, how you got started. And I always love to start with a good origin story. Oh. And so when I was doing my research for today, I was really not surprised, but happy to see that, like so many amazing women, you've pivoted. You've pivoted until you found what was meant to be your calling. So tell me a little bit about what your life was like before you became the Gina Livy of the Livy Method.
Oh my goodness. I think I've lived a lot of different lives. So first of all, that's very kind of you to say. Those very kind words. So thank you. I'm equally excited to be chatting with you. I think like attracts like. And when I came across you, I was like, okay, who is this woman? I need to speak with her. So thank you for being you. And then also really appreciating our community, because we truly do have the best. We have honestly the best community. It's probably the thing I'm most proud of in life is the community that I've been able to, I like to say facilitate, because I didn't create it, because it's our members that truly make the community and our guests and our guest experts, people like yourself. But my origin story, oh my goodness, I have done so many crazy things. Did you know I was a sportscaster?
I knew that you were a TV host, and I was going to ask about that. I'm like, this is crazy. Because I started in TV as well. I was an actress, right? So I think also that kind of leads people like us to kind of go into work like this, right? Not only from a business perspective, but maybe from more of an outreach personality education perspective.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Well, so I'd always been involved in fitness and wellness. I started personal training at the age of 14, teaching aerobics. At the time, a lot of in-house nutrition courses. And so I worked my way through university teaching aerobics and helping people get fit and lose weight. I also, strangely enough, managed a futon store at the same time, but that's a side note. When I graduated from university, I moved to the city and I started working at a club there. And I met Ann Romer. I don't know if you know Ann Romer, who used to be the host of Breakfast Television back in the day. And so she taught classes there. And one day she asked if I wanted to come on Breakfast Television one day and do a little fitness segment. So I was like, okay, sure. I was young. I'm like, why not? Okay. That was my first introduction to television. And the minute I was on set, I was like, okay, this is amazing. I want to work here. I want to do this. And long story short, I finally got a job volunteering on set. And I volunteered full time for a whole year before I was offered a job. And then I was like the coffee girl and the fill-in live eye person for Jennifer Peck, who's now Jen Valentine. And so I started working in television and then worked my way up to hosting my own show. Then I was a sportscaster. And I'd always done fitness and wellness as a side thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was always my waitressing job. Like talk
Yeah.
about being an actress. It was my waitressing
I
job.
had a literal waitressing
Right,
job. You had a
right?
figurative one. Yes.
And it was always this thing I would fall back on. And so I ended up getting pregnant and then eventually leaving that job. It just wasn't for me. First of all, I don't know who allowed me to be a sportscaster. I think I just filled in for these guys who'd been there for 25 years that they let go. And I was at the Raptors game with my kids last week. And up on the big screen was Vince Carter. And they were selling the new Vince Carter jerseys because they just retired his jersey. And did you know I was the first person in Canada to speak to Vince Carter the night he was drafted? Like, how crazy is that?
I'm going to be searching for that on YouTube when I get home.
I don't
That's amazing.
It was so long ago. I'm pretty sure it doesn't exist. But yeah, so I've been able to do a lot of things. But weight loss and fitness has always been my passion.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always been the side thing that I was doing. And then fast forward many years, I was married, I had 4 kids. My ex-husband got quite ill. He got sick. And I had to kind of give up everything. And we had a fitness studio. I was training people. And we had to give that up because he couldn't work and I had to take care of him. He was quite ill. He just recently passed away last year from the same illness. And so it really changed our lives. But it gave me an opportunity to say, what do I want to do with my life? Like it was a really defining moment. Okay, I have to figure out what I'm going to do. How am I going to take care of my family? And my mom brought me a photo album. And in one of the photo albums was a sign that I had made from when I was 10 years old with my best friend at the time, a flyer for the GNFC, the Gina and Nicole Fitness Center. And I pulled it out and I'm like, oh my goodness, this side gig waitressing job that I had been doing all along was really where my passion lies. And then I spent the next 6 months figuring out, okay, how am I going to do this? Like, what's my way in on this? Like, this is an opportunity to do it my way, to do it over, to create a life that I want. And I was like, okay, fitness is one thing, but I've done the personal training thing. People just always want to lose weight. And I was like, I am really good at helping people lose weight. And that's what I really love to talk about. And so then I was like, this is what I'm going to do. And then I kind of never looked back. And here I am now.
So you were helping people. Were you just learning as you went? Were you putting things together that you saw that kind of worked, or learning from what you saw fail? How did you put together your own program? Because I was saying to my team today, like, I want to avoid saying weight loss too much because that is the goal that people have.
Yes.
But I feel like that's not your main drive when it comes down to the nuts and bolts of what brings people to your program, because it's not focused on numbers.
Yes.
It's not focused on the sort of typical things you see in all of these crazy diets that are out there. And I hate the word diet.
Yeah, it's very much an anti-diet, but it is a diet because it's focused on helping people lose weight. So when I was in university, I was probably at my heaviest. I was working my way through school, obviously trying to do well in school. At the time, I was maybe eating a muffin in the morning. I did a morning shift. I worked 7 to 2 and then did school afterwards.
Yeah.
And so I would stop on my way to the gym, get a muffin and a coffee, and then teach a bunch of fitness classes, hardcore 80s style. Like if you didn't leave my class feeling like you're going to throw up, it wasn't a good class. Like really hardcore. Yeah. Nothing like Pilates and yoga, no disrespect, but it was like 80s style, like hardcore high intensity fitness. Then I would come home and maybe grab a salad, go the rest of the day without eating. Once a week, maybe I'd grab pizza with my friends at night, but I was hardly eating anything. And I was exercising like crazy and I just couldn't lose weight to the point where I went to the doctor and I was like, there's got to be something wrong with me. And he's like, oh, maybe you're eating too much. I'm like, that's not it. Maybe you need to exercise more. I'm like, that's not it. And he's like, maybe you're big boned. I'm like, pretty sure that's not it. But fast forward after university, I was in the city and I met my ex-husband I was just talking about, and he was a chef at the time. And when you start dating, you're like, you're going out to restaurants and you're just, whatever.
Yeah.
And it was weird because the more I was eating, the more weight I was losing. And I was like, what is going on here? How am I eating more than I ever have? Now I'm finally losing weight. And that really sent me on a mission to figure out what was going on, because I was taught how you lose weight is you eat less, exercise more. And this is technique I was using for other people.
Yeah.
I think within 8 months, I had lost 80 pounds. And within the year, I lost the rest, which I figure is anywhere from 120 to 130 by the time I got on the scale. And so I looked into, oh my goodness, there was not a lot of, we didn't have Google back then. The internet was just starting up. It was dial-up still.
I remember. Our children would not have survived those days.
And so I would go to the library and I would research journals and try to figure, how does your body actually process the foods you're consuming? And what about toxins added to our food? And just try to figure it out. And then because I had lost weight, other people wanted me to help them lose weight. And I did think about going to school and becoming a dietitian or a nutritionist, but I very quickly realized the basis of learning was the Canada Food Guide, which had 12 grains of servings, no fats, very little proteins. And I was like, this is the same calories in versus calories out method that wasn't working for me. And so after losing my own weight, I became quite popular. People wanted me to help them lose their weight. And it was really, through trial and error. And I use little bits of everything. I use high protein, high fat, low fat, really tried to figure out what worked for people. Carbo loading, I tried a bit of everything. At the same time, Oprah was on and she would have her guests of experts come and go, and I would take little bits of pieces. And through trial and error, actually helping real people, through the research I did, I figured out what people needed to do to lose weight. And so I got really good at it, not just the physical, what people were eating, but the motivational piece, why people were having a hard time making the changes that they needed to make, what they needed to do, what they needed to work through. Helped a variety of people with a variety of different health issues. So trying to help someone who has diabetes, for example, or someone else who has thyroid issues, and really just trying to learn as much as possible about what people needed to be successful. So when I finally put it together and okay, I have this amazing program I want to offer, I called it a lifestyle program. And back then, no one was talking about lifestyle. It wasn't a thing. And I was like, I have this really great lifestyle program. And they'd say, okay, great, but I just want to lose weight. I'm like, no, you will. Weight loss is the side effect of this weight loss program. Nobody wanted to buy it. Nobody was interested in a lifestyle. No one was interested in getting healthier. They just equated losing weight was going to make them healthy. So I specifically started calling it a weight loss program. And it's gone through the evolution, obviously, because of the diet industry has gone through an evolution. And there was the big body positivity movement and diets don't work. But now I'm like, it's okay to want to lose weight. The diet industry is not getting any smaller. It's just that we're doing it now in secret. And I think we're bringing back the shame involved in wanting to lose weight when it's okay to want to lose weight. You can still love yourself the way you are, but you can still also want to make change, and you can also want to lose weight. So I'm learning to embrace the fact that it's okay to want to lose weight.
And I think the other thing is people see it as an episode in their life and not, you have to change your life to change your metabolism to enable lifelong weight maintenance. And it's this whole it will never go away, this thought of I have a wedding in 3 months, I have a vacation next week, I need to drop 10 pounds fast. That always fails. It always rebounds. It always makes you feel worse somehow in the end. I even struggled a little bit as a doctor with even doing an episode centered on weight loss because there's so much out there, and I get asked every single day at work about Ozempic, right? The trend Ozempic is big now. And I have a little bit of hesitancy going there because I see it as yet another quick fix that in the long run is not necessarily making people healthier. Yes, if you're diabetic, if you're morbidly obese, it's a tool, but it was never meant to be the only tool in the toolkit.
Yes.
I worry so much that 20 years from now, all of the people on Ozempic are going to fall, break their hip, and end up in a nursing home anyway. The rapid weight loss and then not doing the other things that are so important. Why would you if you don't have to? It's hard to do the lifestyle piece.
Well, let's also combine that with menopause.
Oh, for sure, right? Because that's that's the people I see, right? And they're really struggling and their body is betraying them. And this is where the fact that you've built this community is so crucial. Now, I was so lucky to meet so many Livy losers.
Yeah.
And if you know, you know, this is not a derogatory term.
It's not. No.
This is a badge of honor.
Yes.
I consider myself an honorary Livy loser because I have had some of your clients who are my patients come to me and say, it doesn't even matter to me that I've been plateauing for a few months because I still feel I'm doing the right things for my body. I'm making the best choices and I feel so supported. They glow when they talk about the community that they've found through your program. And we kind of dropped off the story where you were like, okay, so everybody wants to lose weight. So I had to gravitate more back towards selling it as a weight loss program. But now it's called the Livy method, right?
Yes.
So you've obviously found a way to rein it back towards people understanding that the weight loss is the side effect. The healthy lifestyle is the method.
Yes, the buy-in is weight loss. People want to lose weight. But then they very quickly realize it's less about what they're eating and more about their issues and associations tied into food, the way they cope, their beliefs. Some people pass traumas, and it becomes so much more than that. It's about losing weight in a healthy way, physically, yes, and equally mentally, and learning and acquiring the tools that you're going to need to be able to sustain and maintain your weight. I used to get really offended when people called it a lifestyle because I'm like, no, it's a diet. There's a start, there's an end. Like you're specifically signing up to lose weight. There's got to be an end to your weight loss journey so you can move on and just live your life and be in tune to your body's needs. No, I'm not. I'm just like lifestyle, diet, whatever resonates with you, I'm fine with it.
Right.
But it definitely has been an evolution. I am up against a lot in trying to get the word out about the program because people assume it's just a diet, and dieting means you're starving yourself, depriving yourself. And yes, that's the basis of the diet industry, but there is another way to lose weight. But maybe it's not rocket science, and it's hard to market a program like mine because it's really just helping people understand what they need in order to make real change at the end of the day. Community is a big part of that. I mean, we have our app that people who aren't into being part of a community, they don't have to take part in it. We try to have an app so if people learn that way. We have a book, we have podcasts. So we try to make it accessible for everybody. So affordable, accessible, doable, sustainable is our mantra. But I'm learning to take back weight loss, and people don't know what they don't know. And 93% of our membership and our growth in the company has been through referrals. So it's someone a lot of times not really sure what they're signing up for, signing up to lose weight and being like, wow, this is amazing. It's a systematic, low-stress way to make change in your life that actually makes a difference in your health and wellness. But I agree. Ozempic, believe it or not, I am not opposed to. I think weight loss is kind of like skincare. And I'm like, I'm here to fight my aging. Like I want to look as best as I possibly can. So some people will get a facelift.
Yeah.
Some people will do Botox.
Yes.
But the majority of people are just looking for quality skincare.
Yes.
And I think weight loss is the same. There are some people who might go get weight loss surgeries and other people who might do injections like Ozempic. But the majority of people, I think, are just looking to be healthier, lose weight, feel confident and comfortable in their skin.
Yep.
I do think there is a place for Ozempic for people like you mentioned who their life is at stake. They need something right now. They don't have the time to put into the learning curve that's involved in making real change in your life. So I think it's like antidepressants are a life raft. You can't teach someone to swim when they're drowning.
Absolutely.
And so, or HRT, for example. So you can't just give a woman in menopause HRT and expect that's going to necessarily help her directly lose weight or sleep better, or if she's not managing her stress.
Exactly.
Right?
I always tell them it's 70-30.
Yes.
I can give you the HRT. If you're not going to do the lifestyle piece, you're not going to get the same benefit as someone who will. And I want to clarify, like I'm not opposed to Ozempic either.
Yeah.
I think those medications are useful. What I see in practice is most people then don't do the other components of the toolkit.
Yeah.
And so I always prefer, if I'm going to talk about a GLP-1 agonist, which is what that is, with someone, I say, let's get you into your lifestyle rhythm first. Because if you're not going to be building muscle, if you're not going to be making the best food choices, it's probably going to, in the long run, lead to frailty.
Yeah. Well, you combine that with the fact that a lot of people have spent a lot of time dieting, starving, depriving. So there's a difference
Absolutely.
between fat loss and weight loss where they're losing muscle
Mm-hmm.
along the way.
Mm-hmm.
So you combine that with the muscle they've lost through consistent dieting over the years, plus aging, and the muscle you lose
After
naturally.
35, for women, it starts going down, and we're not
Yes.
even aware. What are we thinking about at 35?
Right?
We're not thinking about our muscle mass, and
Not
it's
that.
slowly slipping away.
Yes. So you add aging, you add menopause, and then now you add, drugs that can, just make that even worse situation.
Right, because it's rapid
rapid.
weight loss, and rapid weight loss is one of the risk factors for osteoporosis.
Yes.
So I agree, it's so important to just do the other things.
Yeah, so I wish everyone could have gone. So a couple of years ago, we went to the Canadian Obesity Summit, and all the brightest minds in Canadian obesity research were there. And they were talking about Ozempic, and the same thing, they still don't have a fix for sustainability, whether it's gastric or any other type of surgeries, including all of these weight loss medications. They don't have a fix for sustainability, because that comes down to cognitive behavioral therapy, changing your brain, the way your body is wired physically. Your brain is wired mentally. It's working through issues, associations, habits, beliefs.
Yes.
There's a lot, right? And so I think people are like, okay, here's this wonder drugs that are going to help us. And it is. It's like a life raft for some people, but it's not going to teach you how to swim at the end of the day. So I'm actually pretty aligned. I'm going to start adding in some literature and verbiage into my program that addresses, because what I don't want is for people who are taking any of these weight loss medications to feel shame, to feel like they are not part of the community. And especially if your doctor has advised you or suggested you take them, I want them to have the information that they need.
I think that's perfect. In fact, I've been doing the same, because more literature has come out about how women on HRT have better benefit from the GLP-1 agonists. They
Yes.
actually work really nicely together, because, of course, hormones are such a complicated.
And they're nuanced too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I've been reading more about the dose of the GLP-1s, and that's it's a nuance. It's not just take this dose and you're good, and then you combine that with what's going on in hormones. Oh, it's such a messy conversation. I'm hoping that I just do my part in providing a little bit of clarity and resources
Yes.
for people to help them navigate their way through.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's never wrong to become more intuitive about what you're eating.
Yeah.
Like when I first heard about you, a patient actually mentioned you years ago.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh, I want to look up what this is all about. And I looked into it, and I'm like, oh, this makes so much sense. Like if you're sitting and you're craving chips, try having some nuts, because your body wants those healthy fats. And I started listening a little more to, okay, what is it that I'm craving, and what would a healthier alternative to this be? And what I love so much about your approach is it fits into your life.
Yeah.
So we had Kyla Fox on a few weeks ago, and she said the success of her program is it fits into your life.
Yeah.
Your life doesn't stop, right? It's not like everything has to change for the next 90 days to make this program work. It fits into. So when you say doable, let's talk about the doable aspect of your program. How can people adapt, or how does your program work with people who say have an extremely heavy workload or are traveling all the time for work?
I say that's probably why you're carrying extra weight, because you don't make time for yourself. And so there is this fitting into your life, meaning like you don't have to make special foods. It's not everyone's eating chicken on a Tuesday. There's a lot of flexibility in the food plan. So you can choose the kinds of fruits and vegetables and proteins and whatnot. So if you have food issues, it can fit. But you will have to make some change. And I'm pretty particular about people following guidelines. There's not rules. It's all about making as many choices as possible that fall into you getting one step closer to your goal. And so if you're able to do all the things, great. But if you're unable to do all the things, you have to be okay with that and be like, okay, maybe I'm not seeing the weight come off at a pace I would like, but I'm doing the best that I possibly can. And I think there are reasons why people gain weight, long periods of time without eating, high stress, lack of sleep, food restriction, punishing yourself, overeating one day, not eating enough the next day. It just teaches the body to feel a need to store fat. And so there are some things you're going to have to do and consistently do to make change, to rewire again how your body's come to function and your brain around that. So part of it is understanding that you can't keep doing the same thing and expect different results. I know it's so cliche to say that. You will have to make change. But I've worked with pilots, people who travel, high stress, corporate people, and I'll have like someone say, well, I'm not going to sit in a boardroom and eat carrot sticks. Oh, yeah, you will. Because if you lose your weight in a healthy way, you will be so protective of that. Mm-hmm. You will sit with your water and your carrot sticks. And I've worked with some pretty powerful people who will say this to me. And next thing you know, not only are they like bringing in healthy foods into these meetings, but they're changing all of the food accessible in the workplace. And they're like, I understand the importance. If I'm feeding people foods that they're feeling terrible after eating, it's robbing them of their brain power. They're looking for naps. They don't feel good. They're not productive. I actually worked with a company where the CEO on the sly signed up to work with me because I'd helped so many people at this company that they were actually seeing a difference in fewer sick days, in more production, just a better mindset. People were happier. And at the time, they would offer $500 for everyone who lost a certain percentage of weight. But you had to be able to maintain and sustain it. So all of a sudden, this company was like dishing out all this money, but they were actually able to see the difference in what was happening in the workplace. And he's like, you need to come and work for me. And I'm like, no, I got my own. I got my own thing going on. So you do have to understand there are certain things you're going to have to change about your life to maintain a lifestyle that makes you feel as good as you feel while following the program, because you have to prioritize yourself. You have to manage your stress. You have to get better sleep. You have to move your body. There are things you're going to need to do in order to make real sustainable type of change. It shouldn't be too far out of your comfort zone. You don't all of a sudden have to start running every day. That's not it. Find something that works for you. You don't have to eat things that you necessarily don't like. Find some fruit that you like, some vegetables that you like. You'll have to make some changes. But yeah, it can't be a super restrictive, not sustainable type of change in your life. Or you're never going to, like, I'm never going to be that person that enjoys cooking, probably. Never, right? Probably now. I love the idea.
We can't be perfect.
I love the idea,
everything,
right?
We have to, have some things to make other people feel like, they can be better than us,
right? So I'm never going to be that person. And so for me to all of a sudden sign up, do cooking lessons, and have the expectation I'm going to be making gourmet meals for my family every night is probably never going to happen. I mean, maybe one day I'll with some wine, and if I'm not, I don't know. But I just like right now, so I'm not going to start doing that, so I don't expect other people to start doing things that chances are they're not going to be able to maintain and sustain.
Right. And let's talk about, you touched on fasting. Yes. And we all know this intermittent fasting. I spend a lot of time talking women out of intermittent fasting. And I always say, I know it's all the rage. I know there are influencers, there are even doctors who are touting it. I will tell you right now, there's not a lot of evidence that it's effective, and especially for women, and especially for midlife women. And yet, you see something on the internet, there it is. So can you explain
so weird
why fasting backfires? Because you were also doing this, right? You were going all day without eating, and you said, when I ate more, I lost weight. Why is that?
Oh, the world just loves to double down on eating less and exercising more, calories in versus calories. First of all, I don't understand how fasting is any different for most of us women who would go all day long without eating.
Right.
Like, we pretty much are fasting. If that's not fasting, I don't know what is. It really got to a point, like for myself, I was eating less, exercising more. Not only did not help me lose weight, it caused me to gain weight. When you're younger, sure, quick fix diets work. But as I got older and my clients got older, how much less can you eat? How much more can you exercise? Not only are you not able to move the dial on the scale, but you're just gaining more and more and more. And sure, forcing your body to burn fat is one way to lose weight. But think about it. It also simultaneously reinforces the need for your body to store that fat in the first place. And that's sort of set point theory, where when I was at the Canadian Obesity Summit, the doctors like, well, people have trained their bodies over years of dieting to feel like it needs to store fat. And I'm like, yeah, so I don't understand how fasting is going to help that. Now, I'm not necessarily opposed for fasting in long periods of time to help the body heal. Like, I'm not opposed to that at all. I think fasting has its benefits and its merits. It's just not in weight loss. It's not a weight loss tool, not very effective. at all and just makes the situation even worse. Now, people will say, well, you do fasting in your diet. And I never really looked at it as fasting. I just looked at it in the way that we should be eating. As soon as it gets dark in the evening, your body is producing melatonin, your cortisol levels drop, your melatonin levels rise. It kind of preps the body for getting ready for sleep. The last thing your body's probably interested in after functioning all day is eating more food. It wants to wind down so it can, repair, rebuild, heal, do all the things it does when you're sleeping.
Rest and digest.
Right. And so although eating late at night isn't the worst in terms of weight loss or weight gain, but it does mess with your sleep. And so it affects it in that way. And then when you wake up, you're already full of energy. So me eating something, I'm not getting the energy right away from that. It has to be processed, digested. So breakfast, not necessarily, although starting your day in high protein has huge benefits, not necessarily the most important meal of the day, as long as you get something in, as you can't go all day without eating. So on my program, it is suggested that you don't eat after dinner, keeping in mind you're eating all this good nutrient-rich foods throughout the day. And then, when you wake up the next day, if you're not hungry, you can choose not to eat breakfast. But by mid-morning, you're going to want to eat something that replenishes your glycogen stores and does that quite quickly, which is why we have fruit. So people would say, well, that's fasting. And I'm like, okay, if you want to, it's just not eating after dinner to try to get better sleep and not necessarily forcing breakfast if you're not so hungry, but then not going till 12 o'clock in the afternoon before you get something to eat.
And you're not saying you cannot eat breakfast.
In fact, it's very beneficial to start your day with breakfast.
I hope the pilot that you worked with was eating. I wouldn't want a pilot who's fasting all day.
Right?
Please eat before you fly the plane.
Like brain
please.
fuel. Yes.
I'm not someone who can function without something in the morning, but I try to make a good choice. I try to make something, like you said, protein is so good in the morning.
Yeah.
It really fuels our brain. It makes us feel energetic rather than that mid-morning crash.
Yes, and more satisfied too. Protein and fats feed into your satiety hormone, so you're eating something that's making you feel more satisfied as opposed to something high in carbohydrates like a bagel that's going to have you craving carbs and sugar all day long.
So you said you have a beginning and an end, right? I know it's a 91-day program.
Yes.
When do you break it to people that although it's 91 days, on day 92, you don't go back to the idea is not to go back to what you were doing before day one.
Yeah, so let's just say someone only needed to do, so I come from a background of working in gyms, high pressure sales, get someone to buy into a year, subscription services, all of that. And it's just so icky. And a lot of other diets do that. It's very hard. You have to sign up for a year no matter how much weight you have to lose or not. And it's hard to break contracts and all of that. So I wanted to provide something more flexible and affordable for people. And so the 91 days is enough time, 12 weeks, to make change, right? To create new habits, for your skin to regenerate, for your body to actually make foundational change. And so there's a start date and there's an end date, and what you eat and when changes and evolves as you go. And then each week has a different focus and a tweak. And so let's just say someone only needed to do one program. I'm trying to teach them everything that they need to know about losing weight in a healthy way in that 91 days. So my goal at the end of 91 days is to make someone feel confident in moving forward and knowing what they need to do in order to continue to lose weight on their own. So the last 2 weeks, so it's an evolutionary process of helping people get in tune to their body needs so they know exactly what they need. So you don't need math. You don't need math to lose weight. You don't need math to know what you need to sustain and maintain your weight. Most people will sign up again because they need longer than 91 days in order to truly lose the amount of weight that they need to lose. Some people will lose their weight and then have a harder time in maintenance mentally because although they were able to lose the weight that they wanted, they still are, falling back into old habits. There's still some work to do with how they utilize food to cope. There's still the work to do mentally. So my goal for people is to lose the weight in a healthy way physically, yes, but also mentally, so you're calm around food, in tune to your body's needs, whether you are looking to continue to lose weight on your own or you are ready to maintain your weight, which is why we also have a maintenance program. So people will do as many rounds of the program as needed, just like any other diet. You start it and you keep doing it until you're done. So people will do as many rounds of the program as they need until they feel like they're at their goal, and then they'll move on and do our maintenance program. And so that's where we talk about learning to embrace the new you, learning to trust that you are in tune. It's a whole other can of worms, the maintenance part. I was so resistant to even doing a maintenance program because I felt like, no, you don't need to spend more money. I've taught you everything that you need to know. Boy, was I wrong. I was wrong. Probably maintenance is where most of the work is.
I believe that. I really do. And I think the psychological barriers to weight loss that you have to break down are really the significant one. What are some red flags people should look for? So, the internet's full.
Yeah.
Full of fads.
Yes.
And as you said, most of these things don't work. Do you have any favorite red flags or buzzwords that you would say, run, don't walk if you see these online?
Yeah, any guarantee of lose a certain amount of weight in a certain amount of days.
Okay.
That's a big one. People will say, well, will you guarantee? I don't do refunds because there's so much value in what I offer. The guests that come on, their knowledge. We know we've been studying the Livy method, the team at the University of Ottawa. We know it's a safe, sound method for someone to lose weight. And there's so many takeaways.
And it's very, relatively speaking, compared to everything out there, it's very reasonable.
It's
for the education that you're getting, it's very reasonable.
Oh, I'm sure I could charge thousands of dollars because I see people charging thousands of dollars and you don't even get close to what people get the value-wise on my program. So I don't do refunds. And they'll say, well, will you guarantee a certain amount of weight? I'm like, absolutely not. Although 93% of members who do our program lose within the first few weeks. So I don't guarantee weight loss at all. I will do my best and support you and share everything I know. So any guarantee of a certain amount of weight in a certain period of time, because nobody can guarantee that. There's so many things factoring in, things that make weight loss harder, inflammation, hormonal issues, digestive sensitivities, those types of things. And so I'm very real about that. So anybody who's promising you anything is a big one. Not being able to follow and not being able to eat meat, like being a vegan. If you can't follow because you're vegan, it's some sort of high protein ketosis diet. You should be able to have food restrictions, be able to follow. And there's a lot of great plant protein out there. So if it's like you have to eat meat, that's a requirement. I wouldn't do that. Anything that is supplements are mandatory. And so this is a weird space for me because there are supplements that are beneficial. Vitamin D, you can't be low in vitamin D and iron and magnesium and expect your body to function.
Right.
But if someone says it's a supplement program, there should be some basics: omega-3, vitamin D, magnesium, those
nothing proprietary, right? And the other big issue too, of course, we know supplements are not regulated by Health Canada. Yeah. You never know what you're getting. You never know if it's even as advertised on the bottle.
Yes.
So it's hard to know. It's hard to know what and who to trust.
Yes. And weight loss teas. Although we talk about detox in my program, it's used in a very general way. Like the body doesn't need help detoxing.
Right.
I mean, you can support the body, drink enough water, any skinny tea or something like that. It's just like, that's a no for me.
Do you have a favorite success story?
Oh my gosh.
Or one that just really sticks out?
I can tell you my recent conversation, Jen Sawicki, and I know she wouldn't mind me saying her name. So every week we have this segment called Real People, Real Journey, where I get to talk to real members about their very real journeys. I mean, there's been thousands. Yeah. She started the program at 300 pounds. She was diagnosed with cerebral palsy at age 11. She cannot walk. If she does, it's barely on crutches. She has a motorized wheelchair. She can't even get access to her kitchen. Oh. She relies on people, her mom and dad, to make all of her food. And you may think, oh, well, that makes it so much easier for her. There will be times where she has served her food and it will sit in front of her for hours if no one is home to take her food away. So you can imagine, having done the program before, trying to drink enough water to be hydrated. She can't go to the bathroom on her own. She's had to also not just, learn what she needs to do for herself, but she's had to teach her parents along the way and then work through what other people feel she should be doing. And so here's a woman who is reliant on other people, has to educate them on what she needs and why. She has to sit there with food on her plate. And of course, it's so easy to sit and pick at your food. So trying to be in tune with her body's needs, trying to get to the bathroom, which obviously being hydrated and drinking enough water is really important. Especially she has lymphedema. And so she figures that she's been able to lose at least 60 pounds with the program so far. She's lost 17 inches off her legs. So if you can imagine. And so I was just like, wow, here's someone And she feels better than ever.
I bet.
Right? Her therapists are like, this is amazing. Her doctors are absolutely thrilled. She thought it was impossible for her to lose weight. She thought it was impossible for her to feel as good as she feels. She feels hopeful. And she literally has every excuse she could use. And she just, her whole, like, she was so inspiring. I was like, wow. And she'll tell you, oh, it's pretty easy to follow. You gave me guidelines. I shared them with the people who are helping me. And the learning curve for her, which was really interesting, I had an aha moment talking to her, because there's the guidelines each week, what to eat and when. And then that's taking care of it for her. But there's all the rest of it. It's that mental piece. It's like, it's so much. And it was that very clear separation for her. And losing weight in a sustainable way is so much more than what you were eating and when. Like that's the easy part. And she was able to be successful in her so she's probably my favorite today.
That's amazing.
There have been others. There's a woman, Brenda Huxley, who unfortunately right now she's actually been put in a care home. Her goal in doing the program was just to leave her house. She hadn't left her house in 4 years. Ended up losing over 100 pounds, finally got outside. And, unfortunately, she got diagnosed with a brain tumor, which her doctors say she would never have survived, and they would never even have done surgery on hadn't she lost the weight and been as healthy as she was. Now, unfortunately, she also, after her brain tumor, got diagnosed with breast cancer. Yeah, so it's one thing after another. And so many takeaways from the National Women's Show that we were at and all the people I met is everybody has a story. And it's always profound and it's always very individual. Sometimes it's someone who's lost 10 pounds. Sometimes it's 100 plus pounds.
What about a rebound effect? What about for the family around them? I can imagine that if you're the matriarch of the family and you're starting to recognize what a healthy choice looks like, maybe for the first time, or maybe you're seeing the changes and the people around you are seeing the changes, not just among coworkers, but what about children, husbands?
I mean, spouses always tend to benefit, and it really pisses women off when their husbands lose so much easier. They're not even really following. They're just kind of following by like happenstance.
They cut cream out of their coffee and they lose 20 pounds overnight. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, and I love working with couples because I believe, there's a lot of compromises in relationships and we forget why we are attracted to each other to begin with. And when you start taking care of yourself, you start feeling better, and it can really bring couples together. So I love that. Had a lot of moms over the years saying like, okay, yeah, I want to lose weight, but I also want to make sure my husband this, I want my kids. And I was like, whoa. Let's prioritize you first. I've heard so many stories of the mom starts eating better, everyone starts eating better. The mom starts eating salad, next thing you know, your kid is trying to eat your salad. Yeah. You start bringing your veg snacks, everyone around you is eating your veg snacks. I think people instinctively want to make good choices. It's just sometimes, like teenagers, for example, they'll look in the fridge and unless it's prepared in front of their face, there's no food in the house. And so with my kids growing up, I would say to women, put the fruit, when you have fruit, make it accessible to your children. Make vegetables and dips and cheeses accessible to your children. If they can eat nuts and seeds, put a bowl of nuts and seeds out. You'd be very surprised. My teenagers, if I was like, sit down and eat something, they're not doing it. But if I just leave food on the table when they come home from school, they're yelling at each other or they're on their phones with friends, and I'll watch them. They'll eat, they'll pick, they'll whatever. But when they're told to do it, eat this, it's healthy for you, they're like, yeah, no. So I just think you can get, one way to get your kids eating healthier is by be a good example. And then if you're dieting, for example, right, why are you eating salads? Well, leafy greens are just really good for you. They're great roughage. They're great nutrient value. I'm trying to eat as healthy, nutrient-rich foods as possible. Not just like I'm on a salad, I'm on a diet. Right? Like there's
not
a way.
Punitive.
Yeah.
Right? Like not like I have to eat this, but I wish I could eat the French fries.
Right. And so maybe they're foregoing French fries at dinner, right? Well, I'm just trying to avoid eating anything heavier. I find when I eat heavier foods like this, it interrupts my sleep. So I prefer to eat them at lunch, right? And so sometimes women will say, but what if I take my kid for ice cream? I have to have someone. I said, okay, this is the same old, well, if Johnny jumps off the bridge, are you going to jump off the bridge? Like we've made it weird. And I'm saying, well, if you go get the ice cream and you don't actually want the ice cream, isn't it just weird that you are eating the ice cream? Like what's wrong with saying, oh, I brought you for ice cream, I'm good, I don't want any, because you actually don't want it. So what you're teaching your children is you're passing on your food issues. You should be able to go to ice cream, take your kids to go to ice cream and not want any. Like, it's this concept of, well, I'm not being fun if I don't have it. Well, okay, well, I'm not being fun if I don't. You're teaching your kid they're not being fun if they don't drink. They're not being fun if they don't do drugs. Food is, to me, no different. So in trying to normalize dieting around children, we've made it weird.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
Gina, it's been a pleasure. I think you've inspired so many women today. You've given us the takeaway. This isn't a dress rehearsal.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to make the time for you to prioritize yourself. And you don't need a doctor. You don't need HRT. You don't need anything to start feeling better today.
Yeah.
Everyone go follow Gina on all social media platforms, on online, and check out the Livy method if you haven't already. And thank you so much for being on Medsplaining.
Oh, no, thank you. I could talk about this stuff all day. Well, you probably know when you're passionate about what you do, you could talk about it all day. It never gets old.
For sure.
So thank you. Thank you for providing me the opportunity to talk about what I love.
Amazing. It's a pleasure. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and TikTok at Medsplaining. If you have any questions, shoot me a DM. And if you like this episode, the best thing you can do is tell a friend or rate and review it wherever you listen to your podcast so other women can discover it. And don't forget, if you're listening to this, you may be happy to know that we video every single episode, so you can watch it if you prefer on YouTube. See you next week. Medsplaining is produced by Ghost Bureau. Thank you for tuning in to Medsplaining. While we strive to provide accurate and insightful information, this podcast is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. The opinions expressed by our host and guests are their own and should not be interpreted as medical advice. Every individual's health situation is unique, and it is crucial to consult with a qualified healthcare provider regarding your specific concerns and conditions. Additionally, any links, resources, or references mentioned in our episodes are provided for informational purposes only and are not sponsored by Medsplaining. The producers and hosts of Medsplaining assume no responsibility or liability for any actions taken as a result of listening to our podcast. We encourage you to use the information presented here as a starting point for discussions with your healthcare provider. Information and references are subject to change based on scientific evidence as it evolves over time. The hosts and producers of Medsplaining are not responsible for future changes to the information and references and assume no obligation to update based on future developments. Remember, your health and well-being are paramount. Thank you for listening, and we look forward to exploring more topics in women's health with you in future episodes.